Hello folks, it is time for some more hobby nightmares. If you like what I do, subscribe to the channel, do all that fun stuff, it really does help me, and I've noticed an upturn since I've started asking. So, for those of you who are dreading me doing the YouTube stuff of asking you to subscribe and all that in every single video, well, sorry lads, but the numbers are going up, so I'm going to keep doing it. I love doing hobby nightmares. It is Monday, so we're at the start of the week. Hopefully we can start getting you guys through the week. Okay, let's start with Han. And he says, "Hello, Northy Exy." Never been called that before, but thank you. "You can call me Han. I've been a silent watcher and listener for 2 years at this point. I'm currently living in Australia, but I am Sri Lankan." Alright, cool. Cool. Sri Lanka had a very lovely, and Britain had a propensity to name things very nice names. Ceylon was the name of Sri Lanka. What a nice name. Sri Lanka's nice as well, but Ceylon, it sounds like a fantasy place. Peking too. Wasn't that Beijing? Nice names. Anyway, first, some info about how I got into this hobby. I have heard of Warhammer in passing many years ago while in secondary school, when I looked into it back then and found it was more about tabletop gaming than anything else. I quickly lost interest as I was a huge video game kid, and I still am. Alright. But with broadened horizons now. Plus, to my knowledge, tabletop gaming wasn't really much of a thing in Sri Lanka, and probably still isn't, though I could be wrong. Well, Sri Lankan people, if you are here, let me know. Is it a thing? I travelled to Australia in 2015 for university, and I'm still here for postgraduate study. Warhammer only entered my life in mid-2023 at 28 years old, when I chanced upon a Lewittin lore video. I don't remember what it was that made me click. Perhaps it was the thumbnail or the title that grabbed my interest, or I just wanted something long to listen to in the background. Whatever the reason, I got hooked. I plunged into a universe rich with intriguing lore built up over 40 years. Shortly afterwards, I found your channel while I was doing a usual marine mammal observer job in Queensland for 2 months. Dude, it's amazing where people are in the world where they find this content. It's crazy. The video I stumbled upon had something to do with dating, of all things. That doesn't surprise me. Dude, the amount of honest brothers over the years, you know, hobby brothers who have been like, you know, North, like, how do I do this? Like, listen, never shame a dude for asking for help, ever, okay? Even on a channel like this, I'm no bloody Casanova or anything, but I've had girlfriends, I've had long-term relationships, with a lot of lovely women, right? And so, you know, I get asked on the channel, hey, you know, why do you do that? Now, compared to other people that I know, as I just said, I'm no Casanova. I'm not bringing home, like, I wasn't bringing home stunners every single week like some of my mates were, you know. But, been around the block. I'll say that. Been around the block. And compared to normal nerds, I suppose, who have lived their entire lives with, like, autism and maybe been cooped up behind closed doors and stuff, or don't think they can do it, you know, I guess I'm the kind of guy who they would feel comfortable asking a question or two, which is, I'm quite proud of that, by the way. I'm quite proud of the fact that people were, and still are, happy and comfortable asking me for advice and things that are quite personal. So, you know, I'll always give honest advice if I can, and hopefully I've helped you out. Anyway. There obviously lies one of my struggles in life, but hey, I would like my first email to you to be a bit more light-hearted than that. Perhaps more about that in a future email, maybe, if I can somehow insert hobby into it. Regardless, I enjoyed your delivery in that video, and I always look forward to your uploads, whether it's a story to laugh at, a hobby or rant, or some tough love that makes me grit my teeth for a few seconds. Here's where I really got into the hobby. At some point during those 2 months, I decided to walk about town and soon spotted a Warhammer store. I thought, you know what, I like the lore, let's have a look-see. And wow, just walls and walls of boxes and display cases with many beautifully painted models. The staff were very friendly too. The store wasn't very busy that day, so I ended up having a long conversation with the store manager about the hobby. I had a short, simple intro game, Ultramarines vs Tyranids, and I ended up being in that shop for an hour or two. I knew I wanted to try the tabletop game out, but I had trouble deciding what faction to go with. After a couple more visits, and about $400, ouch, I walked out with paints, tools, and, drumroll, the Grey Knight Combat Patrol box. Yes, bring on your man of culture praises. Sip on that beloved Yorkshire tea of yours. Yes, well, yeah, man of culture. Unfortunately, you've paid top dollar for what is a very, very, very old hobby kit. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Now to burst your bubble. I love the Grey Knight's lore and artwork. However, they are the supreme Space Marines, demon killers, and one of the Imperium's closely guarded deadly secrets. Unfortunately, the more I looked at the models in the box, the more I started to feel a disconnect between the artwork and the actual model's looks. Dude, you're so right. You are so right. There is no bigger glow down in the hobby than what Grey Knights look like in the art and what they look like as models. Right? It is a huge step down. When they do Primaris Space Marine sized Grey Knights, they need to resemble the artwork more. Absolutely. There's no excuse for that. The proportions just seemed wrong, indeed. They looked too squat, unlike some of the other Space Marine chapters that were on the shelves. And, going by your comments in your recent videos, I'm glad I wasn't the only one feeling this way. So I decided to change the Grey Knight box to the Deathwatch box. Elite, black-clad Xenos hunters pull from various chapters wielding exotic weaponry, and also helping me with my indecision about which chapter I wanted. Sign me the hell up. And thus was my entrance into model painting and gaming. Attached are pictures of my two prized pieces of my army. Alright, let's have a little look. Let's have a little look-see. Should be some cool models in here. From what I saw, you painted them, they were kind of like, yeah, it's Captain Artemis. But he's still kind of in Grey Knight colours, which I quite like. Oh, no, he's not. You didn't do the eyes. Yeah, I'm the same, man. I'm the same about eyes. But I've also always been on the side of the Iron Warriors when it comes to helmets. Like, if you have a helmet, wear it. Wear it. I'm fully aware that, you know, melee combat in a space game is not very, you know, realistic. But at the same time, dude, wear your helmet. All that fancy blade work does you no good if you get a bolt round between the eyes. You know? There's a very good scene in Angel Exterminatus where a Iron Warrior sees a Imperial Fist fighting with no helmet on. Like, he's dueling people. Haha! You know, dueling. And he just says the word idiot and then puts a round in his eye and drops him. It's like, it's true. You're an idiot. These are lovely painted models, though. Very nicely done. Soon after, I would start playing games infrequently with members of my local hobby community. My first was with a lovely dad and his sororitas painted in blue. I lost, of course, but I had fun, and he was a very good teacher. Also, my lieutenant died on top of and underneath a pile of bloodthirsty, half-naked, zealous women. Well, that's a good way to go, I suppose. If only I was so fortunate. Haha. You're such a nerd, man. You're such a nerd. However, about a year in, my desire to play started to wane. By this point, I think I collected about 1,600 to 1,800 points, and I started to become more conscious about how much money was going into this. Seeing as I am still a poor graduate student, also I started to not like how long these games could be. But most importantly, this would be less of a problem if the players take turns and they weren't so goddamn boring. Having to wait several minutes for your opponent to move their entire army is not fun. And frankly, I really wish that Games Workshop would one day change the system to an alternating style of play. It would be more dynamic. Not to say that I haven't had some good moments, I have. The best one thing was when my Corvus Blackstar dealt the final blow to a gargantuan Squigoth with a flyover cluster bombing run. We called the game a little after that, and my opponent handed me the win for that epic moment alone. That being said, I am now in no rush to play the game, sticking to just enjoying the lore and sometimes model painting. Dude, you're in the same spot as me. We're in the same same area. I love the lore. I love painting. I love putting models together. I love converting. But the game, Warhammer 40,000 10th edition itself, just not my thing, man. Not my thing. Anyway. Now, getting to the annoyance. That wasn't the annoyance, okay? My journey into the Black Library novel sphere started with finding old copies of the first Gaunt's Ghosts Omnibus and Brothers of the Snake for $30 altogether. This was in an old bookshop in a tiny, quaint village on the Clarence River. I loved those two books. Since then, my collection has expanded with the Eisenhorn Omnibus, the first two Caiaphas Cain omnibuses, the Night Lord books, and Assassinorum Kingmaker. Then, I thought of getting a book on the Deathwatch and a second Gaunt's Ghost Omnibus. Dude, aren't the Deathwatch novels really bad? I heard one Deathwatch novel was like the worst novel they've ever written in Black Library history, which is saying a lot. Going through online retail, the Deathwatch Omnibus is not available. There's probably a reason for that. And the current Gaunt's Ghost editions that are available have covers that look too clean and lack the gritty character of the old covers. So eBay was next. And golly, the effing prices. $100 to $500 for a single book? Piss off. These are not old unopened Lego sets. These are books that get worn down and yellowish with age. That's insanity. Now, I ended up buying the second Gaunt Ghost book for around $100. I know, I caved. Yeah, I mean, you can't complain and then just pay the price. I could have just gotten an ebook, right? Well, I prefer the physical copies and have to like the covers. These new ones, meh, so I decided to bite the bullet this time. But the day I buy a bloody book for $500 is the day pigs fly. On a happier note, I did find the entire Deathwatch Omnibus uploaded somewhere as a PDF. Yay, free 900-page something the book. Thanks for taking the time to read this, and thank you for everything that you do. Hope that one day I could attend one of your fests in the future. Best wishes to you and your loved ones. Regards, Han. So, yeah, this is the curse of Australia, man, and New Zealand. Okay, when people say to me, oh, what is a real hobbyist? Take a look at your brothers in Australia and the shit they have to put up with in terms of pricing. That's a hobbyist, all right? That's somebody who's putting in a lot of money to do something that they get, they've got to put a lot of effort into to even get it going, Yeah, it's insulting. I'm at the point now, and I've said this before in videos, where in countries like Australia and New Zealand and places like that, I honestly can't have a go at you for pirating things, because Games Workshop are not providing you a service that's worth the money. In fact, I don't think they're providing you a service whatsoever with the prices they're charging you. They're robbing you. They're robbing you blind. So, since they're no longer providing a service, pirating is fine, in my opinion. Same thing goes for video games. If a company doesn't sell a video game anywhere anymore, like Vampire the Masquerade was for years, you couldn't get it for love nor money, pirate it. It's fine, right? You can't buy it. You would like to buy it. But you can't. Games Workshop no longer sell models in Ukraine or Russia. Pirate it. You would like to buy it legally, but they don't let you. So, fuck them. Pirate it, I have no problem with you circumventing an unfair system, right? I have no problem whatsoever with people in Australia completely circumventing an unfair, rigged system to say, no, I'm not doing that, right? I'm not doing that. So, and you're one of those people, Han, I guess. Anyway, let's go with Mark next. How's it going, man? Mark has a short request for some advice. He says, hello, North. This story won't be interesting enough for a hobby nightmare, but I do like your takes, so it would mean a lot to have some advice from you about something. Okay, no problem. What do you do about crybullies? People that just instigate, and then, when you finally do something that goes too far, in their opinion, they run around and cry to someone else about what you did. It's a common problem I keep running into, and I'm just wondering how you think you should deal with people like that and avoid playing into their hands. Best regards, Mark. Alright. I think truth is the best way to combat something like this. Listen, members of my own family have done this to me. so I know what you mean, okay? Members of my own family would prod me and prod me and prod me, and the second I would say anything back to them, they would hold their hands up and go, it's only a joke, oh my god, why are you taking so seriously? Like, dude, you were literally just insulting, like, my intelligence, and, like, telling me that I shouldn't be going to university because I'm not smart enough, right? And I make fun of the fact that you're a mechanic, and all of a sudden I'm the bad guy? Like, what? You know, shit like that. You know, and it would happen a lot. It would always be, you know, everything's funny until North gets in on a joke, and then everyone has to be offended. And I wouldn't even say anything that went anywhere near as what they were saying to me. That's the thing. It's not like I was sitting there going, well, you know, you're fat. I would never insult anything that they couldn't change, that was too close to the quick. It would always be exactly what they insulted me for, toned down a bit, and thrown right back at them. And it was this, oh my god, how can you say that? Dude, you just said worse to me, and you always say worse to me, you know? I've had girlfriends meet my family, not my grandparents, so my grandparents always, like, had my back. It is a really common dynamic in many families, and it was the same in mine. My mum, how far do I go into this? Do you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go into it. It's story time with North. Right, so maybe we can get Mark through something here. So my mum split up with my dad way back in the day, right? And it was horrible for her, right? She came back to the Northwest with me as a baby and worked her ass off, right? Absolutely worked her ass off to provide for me and to make sure that I had what I needed, okay? Then she met a new husband, and they had my little sister together, right? Now, her new husband had 3 kids already, who were older than us, older than the 2 kids that my mum had now. And essentially, my sister was the apple of everybody's eye. She was the golden child, could do no wrong, you know. I'm not the only one who picked up on this, by the way. Like, literally, whole family did. You know, it was an open secret that there was a favourite in the family. So my grandparents, my mum's parents, basically rallied around me and said, well, you know, they never said this, but there was an attitude of, well, if you're going to do that to, if you're going to treat the daughter like she's like the best thing ever, then we're going to do that to the son, right? We're going to, you know, he's the boy, so we're going to make sure he's all right. And they did. And losing my grandma was low-key one of the hardest things that ever happened in my life, because that was my grandpa would go along with the flow. He's got my back all the time, you know, but he will go along with the flow. My grandma was the one who was in charge. Like, she was in charge in that relationship. And she had my back, dude. Like, I would kill for that woman. Like, I would literally go through brick walls for her. And, you know, she was always the one who was like, if anyone said anything about me in front of her that was negative, she would be down on them like a ton of bricks. And she could tongue lash people. Like, she was the best at just finding the thing you're really insecure about and just hammering it with every nail she had. Just going, listen, you know, don't say that about my grandson or I'm going to fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I can't let you just go for you. And again, it would very, very rarely happen, but she always used to do it to, you know, my stepdad's side of the family. Whenever they would say anything about me, she wouldn't have it. She'd be like, hey, he's going to university, what do? You're a thick piece of shit, and that's why you're on the building. Shut the fuck up, right? So, trust me, Mark, I know what you're going through. Like, this happened to me my entire life. My entire life. Because all that side of the family would always have backhanded compliments, and they would always, like, even if they were being nice, you could see they were sneering with it. They had a sneer on their face, you know? And I became very good at reading eyes. What that is, basically, even if somebody's smiling at me, if your eyes are telling me you're not real in what you actually think I'm a piece of shit, I will know. If you don't like me, I will know. And I will not like you right back, right? If you look at me and you shake my hand and you smile, but you've already made up your mind about me, because you don't like me, I will know. And I will reciprocate it. I'll go, yeah, mate, yeah, whatever. Go fuck yourself. Off you go, right? That kind of thing. That was a skill I learned from my own family. Yeah, I think we're finding out why North has a big chip on his shoulder. Yeah, therapy time with North. Here we go, right? But just as an example, Mark, I only opened up about that because I wanted you to know that if I give you advice, it's from a place of experience, not just some guy talking shit, right? Okay. You are already approaching this in the right way. Give it them back. Give them their own medicine back. Tell them to go fuck themselves. And tell them what they are. Say, listen, you're a crybully. You're a bully. And you're the worst kind. You don't even back it up. You know what the worst kind of bully is? Somebody like you. Somebody who will bully me, and then the minute I bully you back, you cry and you whinge and you moan. You're a pussy. Even if it's your own family, man, tell them, you're a pussy. You are a pussy. You have a go at me all the time. The minute I give it you back, all of a sudden, it's not okay anymore. You're a pussy. You live in a glass house, my friend, alright? Keep on doing this. If this is a guy you're talking to, keep on doing this. One day, I will smack you on your fucking jaw. Okay? Wind your neck in, mate. Before I put it in. Wind your neck in. Most dudes, especially if they're related to you, if you say that to them, they will back the fuck down. Straight away, they'll go, okay. Right. And they won't bother you again. Most of the time, they won't bother you again. If it escalates, then let it escalate. Let it escalate. Maybe this has been coming a long time. Fighting isn't always a negative. It isn't. It isn't always negative. Sometimes two men need to kick the shit out of each other. To get the air out there, to get it all out there, to get rid of it, right? The amount of fights I've had where we've ended up buying drinks afterwards and being really pally. Like, oh, you're alright, you know, that kind of thing. Sometimes you just need to get it out there. You need to get that aggression going and get it out there. Now, that will very rarely happen, you know. Very, very rarely, you know. Especially if they're related to you. If you say to them, listen, man, here's what you're doing. You're a crybully. You're a pussy. And you have a go at me all the time. And the minute I have a go at you, you go crying to somebody else. Or you start whinging, saying it's you know, saying it, you know, it's all against you. Okay? So you're a pussy. But I'm telling you now, as the pussy that you are, you keep saying shit like this to me. Next time, I won't come back with an insult. I'll just smack you in your fucking jaw. How's that? And I'll give you something to cry about. If it's a dude, say that to them. If they're in your family, if this is your family you're talking about, they will back the fuck down straight away. Unless they don't, then escalate. Go fine. Whatever. Here we go. Get it out there. Right? Because sometimes people need to know there is a line in the sand here. There is a line in the sand, do not cross. I have my self-respect. I have self-respect. If you cross that line, you're getting a warning. An honest warning. You cross it again, I'm smacking you in your fucking jaw. Alright? If it's a woman, say the same thing, man. The same thing. You're a crybully. That's all you are. I'm answering you with truth. You're a crybully. Every time you have a go at me, I take it until I give it you back, and then all of a sudden it's going too far. Go fuck yourself. You're a pussy. Don't ever speak to me like that again. Fight this with truth. There is a very good reason. I didn't have the confidence to stand up for myself when I was a kid. I do now. And by the way, that side of the family are now very nice with me because they know. Right? I've taken a few of them down a peg or two over the years verbally when they tried, and now they know. I went to university, came back a different person. I was much more confident. So yeah, you can, all of you, right? You can all go fuck yourself. You can absolutely all go. You know, we had one very, shall we say, awkward dinner. Well, because I know everybody's dirty laundry, by the way. I'm in the family, so I learned shit. So basically, when it started happening again, I said, okay, he's cheated on you with so and so. You know, and went round the table of 3 people, said, and you're all fucking idiots, hypocrites, and assholes. And I've never liked you. So, go fuck yourself. Like, that kind of thing. Like, just, yeah. Since then, not a problem. Not a problem. I'm not had a peep. I very rarely see them. When I do, they're all very polite. Because they know I know that I'm not the favourite child. They know I know that I'm not their favourite person. And they know that I don't give a shit. I absolutely don't give a shit. Because I know who I am. I know I'm a good guy. I know I'm a good person. Right? The whole other side of the family loves me. I'm like, yeah, this, you know, North's great, right? He always helps us out, always does everything. But, like, you can't choose your family, unfortunately. But let him know, dude. Next time it happens, be honest. You're already on the right track, in my opinion. You really are. But don't let people overstep the mark. Fuck them. But don't fuck them. You know what I'm saying? Don't let people overstep the mark. Say, no, fuck that shit. No, I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. Don't let them overstep. Alright, next. We have Is it Rain? Okay, Rain. Nice name, man. Nice name. G'day, North. My name is Rain. I have listened to Hobby Nightmares for what feels like half a decade now, and I feel it's time I contributed. Today, I have a story for you from my old 40k club and what I consider to be the best time of my life. Playing 40k Wednesday nights in the packed upstairs of a hobby shop while at least 10 full games of 40k were going on. And sometimes 30 people. As well as on a Sunday with a few less people, but still an amazing atmosphere. Needless to say, my hobby club was my life at this time. I was close to the manager, who helped me out with a lot in life outside of the hobby, and would always bring me along early to help him set up the terrain for the night, or day if it was on a Sunday. The Hobby Nightmare took place on a Wednesday night, packed and cramped with that buzzing hobby atmosphere. 8 1,000 point games on shared tables, and 2 2,000 point games all the way up in the back, where those big tournament boys tend to play. I was playing 1,000 points that night with my Wolfie Blood Angels. I will attach a photo of my Kit Bash chapter master. No, despite the accusations, I am not a furry. I'll be the judge of that, my friend. I'll be a judge of that. Well, not just me. We will be the judge of that. Let's see. If this has one of those Space Wolf helmets on, you're not beating the furry allegation. There he is. There he is. Yeah, you ain't beating no furry allegations, man. Cool pose, though. That's the Phobos Lieutenant, right? I like him as a chapter master. That's a pretty cool model. Anyway. That night, I just finished up my first game and was hunting for a second, when the club manager, let's call him Greg, had called me over. Hey Rain, Jerry just had a bad game, and I was wondering if you could play him and help him out. Now, Jerry, as we are calling him, was severely Asperger's, alright? Fair enough. Whom I had tried in the past very hard to befriend and get along with. I have an autistic younger sister, so I understood somewhat what Jerry was going through. Jerry loved 40k, played White Scars and Raven Guard, but was not very good at either. Though his models weren't half bad. Every time he played, he would lose, unless Greg had asked us to let him win, and he would throw a hissy fit. This is OP, that's not fair, and he wasn't much better on the win either. Yeah, dude, Asperger's is like that. It's like that. They can't really process high-level emotions, right? So, you know, when they get natural highs and lows, they can't really contain them. Do you know what I'm saying? Moving on. This night in particular had a devastating loss. He had a devastating loss and was absolutely losing it. He was not happy at all. Everybody could hear him shouting, and whilst everybody was polite and quietly ignored his outbursts, I came over to try and help him out and offer him another game. Hey Jerry, what happened? Did those Necrons get you again? Yeah, they did, and they're just overpowered. I mean, how can Games Workshop let one model do 9 wounds? I said, now I'm not sure they're so OP. If you had charged those Outriders into the Destroyer, it wouldn't have been able to shoot. Yeah, well, that's stupid. I had to get those warriors off the objective or I'd lose anyway. Yeah, that's true, Jerry. But sometimes you got to let them have an objective to get rid of the big Carnifex, right? That's where seemingly his frustration got the better of him and he lost it. But that's not fun, that's stupid. And what would you know? Your Primarch is dead anyway. People either go at me for cheering on the bad guys, but they're just, it's not me cheering them on, it's me like just celebrating like somebody losing their shit. And, you know, God love you. You know what I mean? Like, he's absolutely... Your Primarch is dead anyway. Good lad. Good lad. At this point, Greg took him outside to try and calm him down. So I have something similar to this. Me, myself. Ask Steady. Steady, who's on the channel a lot. If I'm in a mood about something, the worst thing he can do is to try and explain it. Right? Because most of the time, I already know the logic behind what's going on, but I don't agree with its implementation, right? So if you try and explain it to me, I'm just going to get more frustrated. It's like, dude, I'm not... It's not that I don't understand. I understand. I don't like it. You know? Like, it fucking triggers the hell out of me. Like, I'm not stupid. I understand what I'm annoyed about, but I don't like it. My anger isn't coming from a place of misunderstanding. It really gets under my skin. I don't know if anybody else has had that, but it seems like that's what's going on with Jerry here, right? You're trying to logic away very emotional responses. And dudes like Jerry, and to some extent myself, don't react very well to that. You got to let the fire burn itself out. And then, do you know what he'll do? He'll go, I'm sorry about that, mate. Should we just play a game? And he'll be fine. And you go, yeah, no problem. And you'll just play the game and it'll be fine. And that Steady has learned over years to just do that with me. On the rare occasion where I'm like, dude, this is fucking nonsense. He'll just sit there, let me vent, and then we'll talk about it. And then I'll be fine. And then we'll just get on with the day. You know, that kind of a thing. But it took him ages to get to do that, right? To get to... Because everybody has their quirks, you know. Like we were playing Dune the other day. You know, the new Dune game. And the way the sandstorms work in that game is fucking broken, you know. I don't mean like it's too powerful. I mean it's actually broken. You will get a warning when you're outside your base from quite a way away going, oh, there's a sandstorm on the way. Oh, okay. So you turn around to go back to your base and the sandstorm immediately appears and kills you. It's like, dude, what? Thanks for the warning. You know, what the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck? That's bullshit. Like, this shouldn't work like that. It should give you, like, a good minute, you know, and maybe you still get caught by the storm, but it's giving you a chance to get to cover. You would have more warning like that with the technology that's in the Dune universe. You're on Arrakis. It's a desert planet with sandstorms, right? You would know within a few minutes that there's a sandstorm on the way. Sometimes you may be caught anyway, and that's just your bad luck. But to say, oh, there's a sandstorm on the way, and then 3 seconds later, spawn the sandstorm on my fucking head and kill my character, that's bullshit. And I expressed that as well. I was really annoyed. And they both, and Steady for a second, slipped into explaining, well, you know, dude, I understand. It's still bullshit. Anyway. During that time, the other Blood Angels player, we'll call him Dazza, came up to me. What was all that about anyway? He said. Oh, you know, just Jerry lost the game again and went off at me for trying to help him out. What was that about a Primarch? He said. I think he just got a little bit over his head. He said I wouldn't know anything about strategy because my Primarch is dead. Lol. You gonna take that, man? That's our Primarch he's talking about. You can't let that slide. He chuckled and walked away. Greg and Jerry came back. Greg asked if Jerry was going to apologise, to which he huffed and promptly said, no, why would I? Okay, now he's being a dick. Greg smiled at me and I offered Jerry another game to make up for the loss. Why would I want to play you? I'll win anyway. How can you win with a dead Primarch after all? He smiled, looking chuffed, looking over at Dazza, who just smirked at me and went back to his game. So I knew what I had to do. Oh no. North and audience, raise your gavels in the court. Was I the nightmare here, or was it all in good fun? Because North, I'd had enough at this point. Over the last few months, I had been the designated one to play Jerry when he was having a hard time of it. I tried real hard to build rapport with him, and he has just thrown it all aside for basically nothing. Oh well, probably because half the time I let him win. Because I wanted to see him smile and have a good time, like everybody else at the club. I tried to help him out, but he just kept having a go at me and my chosen army, and whilst I knew and understood he was developmentally challenged, by now I took it personally. Oh no. This is like the hobby version of like kicking the shit out of Timmy from South Park. Like, what's going on? So he played our game. He charged his White Scars Outriders into my Blade Guard. I heroically intervened with my Justicar, killed his Outriders and countercharged, tabling him in turn 2, and he was pissed. So pissed, he was gobsmacked. Not so bad for a dead Primarch, eh? I said. Now you know what you're doing, right? Whatever happens to you from here, you know this guy's got problems. You're poking the bear, man. I said, arms crossed with a smirk on my face. Even Greg was smiling, seeing Jerry get what we all thought he had coming to him. He just packed up with a few words and went outside to wait for his dad to pick him up. Dazza gave me a pat on the back for defending our honour as the Blood Angels, even if I was a furry apparently, and Greg kept laughing about how fast I showed Jerry up. But I can't help but think, was I in the wrong? Should I have been the better man and played loose with him and given him a fun narrative kind of game? Anyway, thanks for reading this, North. Much love from Australia. Keep it up. There's two sides to this story, man, alright? The first one is, if this was somebody you just met, I'd say, yeah, you're a bit of a douche. Now, if you've just met this guy, and it's obvious he has problems, and your response to that is to poke into his weak points, right? Is to put a spanner in the works and try and get a rise out of him, you'd be a class A dickhead, right? But the fact that you've helped this guy so many times, and you've given him so many chances, you know what he's done? He's gotten comfortable with you, and he never thinks you're going to slap back at him, you know? And, also, do you know what's happened here? Because you've let him beat you so many times, he is now... You've now beaten him so easily that he is calling into question all the other times that he's beaten you. I bet you didn't think of that, did you? Right? Now he's thinking, wait, did he let me win all those other times? Can you imagine how bad that would feel? You're already having a bad night, and then you get absolutely annihilated by a player that you were kind of thinking, maybe this dude has let me win in the past, but you've not confronted it in your mind. Then he batters you out of nowhere, and it's not even close. Like, he's not even trying, and he batters you. Now you're thinking, oh, and all the other wins I did have are now not really wins. That's why, in my opinion, from what you told me, he didn't rage at the final one there. He just packed up and left. That's when I'm starting to feel bad for him, right? So, but on the same side, you've tried with this guy, right? You tried with this guy, and sometimes, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I've said it to my daughter, so for those of you who don't know, my daughter is autistic. She was on the spectrum. We're not sure how strenuous it is. In fact, with my kid, you would never know. Most of the time, you'd never know that she's autistic at all. She's fine, right? She's well adjusted. She does her schoolwork. She's a typical normal kid. Until she comes across certain things. One of them being adversity. So any adversity she can't handle. You know, we're trying to beef her up. It's going well. I think she's growing. She's getting better, day by day. But my daughter having autism doesn't mean she's allowed to be a dickhead. Bad behaviour is bad behaviour, and gets punished, right? You don't. This is what I mean. So the more you butter up this guy, the more entitled he's going to feel, and this is why I always say, people who are autistic or have Asperger's or whatever, right? Treat them like normal people. There are some behaviours that are not tolerated. I'm sorry. That's not acceptable. You know, you treat them as if they're any one of your other friends, because that's what they want. They're only going to get more frustrated and more angry if you give them preferential treatment, because you end up in situations like what you just ended up in there. So, I think honesty was the best policy from the start here. Beat him, but let him know what he's doing wrong. Autistic people and people with Asperger's have very analytical, problem-solving brains. If you present his losses as a problem to be solved, and you give him tools to do so, he's likely going to solve them on his own and beat you next time. But you indulged him instead. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't be understanding. Absolutely be understanding. And if somebody is really having a bad day, throw a game or two, that's fine. But doing it every time you play him, leading to trouble, right? That's why he said to you, I'm going to beat you anyway, because he knows. Deep down, he knows you're letting him win. So when you actually beat him, it just emasculates him. And now he's, you know, now he just feels even worse. That's why he didn't even do a storm out. He just left really quietly. I really do feel for him, because it's not an easy thing to handle. Like autism is not easy, man. It's not easy. So Maybe next time, if you see him again, talk him through. Take him through a battle and talk him through, step by step. Here's what you do in this situation. Like, listen, you got to learn how to do your army, and by the time I'm finished with you, you're going to be beating people in this store, right? And then you work on his etiquette. By the way, when you win, don't be an asshole about it. When you lose, don't be an asshole about it. You know, you teach him skills that are going to be good for him to have. You know, firstly, you teach him how to win the game fairly. Then you teach him how to be a good winner and a good loser. And you start to get a good hobbyist doing that, right? What you did is you made mistakes all the way through. You tried to be kind to him, but sometimes you got to be cruel to be kind. Same with my kid, man. Sometimes, you know, sometimes the iPad gets taken away because you're being a dickhead. Is what it is. I don't say that to her, obviously. Right? But so no, that behaviour is unacceptable. No iPad. You can scream and shout all you want. No iPad. Goodbye. That's it. I'm in charge, you're not. And again, whilst you should be understanding with people with autism and Asperger's, they're not allowed to use it as an excuse to be a dick and to get things that nobody else gets. Just saying, right? Anyway, I love you a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more 40k rantage, where we are going to talk about, and I'm going to love this, right? We're going to talk about your hot takes, your hobby hot takes. There are a lot of them, some of them hotter than others. There are a few very spicy ones in there too. So I'll see you tomorrow for that. I'm really looking forward to it. I love you a long time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.